I voted for Trump and I regret it. Why do I still have access to an education? Why do I still have the right to vote? Why can I go out and become the CEO of a major corporation if I choose to do so? Why can I, as an American woman, still do anything I want, even though Trump is the president? Trump being president is really stressing me out because I was told my rights were going to be taken away from me and the world would stop spinning.
Voted for Donald Trump.
I did.
Do you regret that vote?
Yes, I do.
It's gonna hurt.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from now. White MAGA supporters and white farmers, together with conservative Latinos, are now crying out to each other that they could have listened to the advice the black community was giving them not to vote for MAGA. Now, this is happening in a very critical moment when they are going through harsh economic times, when Donald Trump is increasing tariffs on countries that are actually retaliating back and affecting the lives of those who voted for him and those who didn't vote for him as well. So let's watch this video, then have a really quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Y'all remember when them Latino men had voted for Trump? No tips on overtime. Now they passed the F around part. Now they finding out now. See, Trump signed an executive order to ban birthright citizenship. So for you Latino men who voted for Trump, know what that means? If your mother, your grandmother, or your grandparents wasn't born here, all y'all gotta go back. That's the end of birthright citizen. See, we tried to warn y'all, but y'all would not listen. Y'all wanted no tax on overtime so bad that y'all finna get your whole, not just the illegal immigrants, y'all whole family deported back to where? They was born here. You was born here. We tried to warn y'all. But 60% of you Latino men want to be Republicans so bad. Now y'all in the finding out stage. And I don't feel bad for you. They starting in Chicago. They going around. They finna get all y'all. We tried to warn y'all, man. But y'all wouldn't listen, man. I don't know who was y'all trying to be. I don't know what y'all thought y'all finna get from this guy. Now y'all finna get a lot of pain and hell. They finna be just walking up to y'all and telling us where your papers at. If you don't got them, they throwing you in the back of a truck or something. But we tried to warn y'all. 60% of you dudes, 60% voted for this man. Now he finna end birthright citizenship. Means your whole family finna be deported. Deported where? But y'all chose this. Y'all chose this. And we just sitting back. We're going to sit back and just watch this shit downfall for y'all. All because you thought eggs was too high. You already had traded on your family members when you voted for Trump. Now they finna get all y'all in a package deal. But we tried to warn y'all. We tried to warn y'all. So
ask you this. What about what they've said in terms of black, particularly black men and Latinos, supported him more than they have in the past? Why do you think that is? And what do you have to say to black men and Latinos who were not in favor of supporting Kamala Harris?
Oh, honey. Oh, honey. When your favorite niece and your 13-year-old daughter is raped by your alcoholic brother or the next door neighbor, and she tries to abort that baby inside of her from a rape, you're going to regret that. They want to keep women in their place. It's so disgusting. I can't even put words to them voting for her. They didn't vote for her, didn't vote because she was a woman. They didn't care that she was smart and powerful, educated, beautiful, kind, joyful, fearless. She would have taken care of this country. She would have protected the people. She would have surrounded herself with great minds. But keeping women in their place was more important to them. And black men, that was just shocking because, honey, he's going to give the military and the police permission to shoot you in your back, and there will be no immunity. So, baby, y'all done fucked up. You took every right from your children. Once again, there will be no social security and pensions and rights. This thing has said you will never have to vote again. He's going to be in charge of the military. We have fucked up. End of story.
You don't think it was a simple situation of looking at the economy, looking at inflation, looking at crime and saying, excuse me, providing and protect. And as men, that's what we want. And as a result of that, I mean, I voted for her. I wasn't voting for him. But speaking to men who felt differently, they didn't think about Roe v. Wade. They didn't think about stuff. They thought about the economy, money in their pockets, and safety in the streets.
Listen,
It couldn't have been as simple as that.
First of all, do you see women breaking in people's houses? Do you
No,
see
no.
women shooting each other in the streets?
No.
They voted because they voted for Trump because, I hate saying his name. They voted for him because they hate themselves. And they see this thing as powerful, that he's going to move mountains for them and make them rich. And unfortunately, black men, they want a man. They were saying, I'm voting for the man. Well, we're going to see about that. And don't think we're all not at fault. All of us. We went to our jobs, we came home and sat on the sofa and watched movies of destruction. Superman, Batman, the end of this, Armageddon. Well, all of that social consciousness has brought us here. So now, like I said, let's lose.
Black community standing up for the Hispanic community, I guess, while the deportations are going on.
Y'all got my back. I got y'all back. We in this together. It's time to fight.
Black and brown, we stand with you guys. I, for one, I am not with his decision. That's not right. We need to unite as one.
Hispanics act just like us. Shit, they family.
We got the motherfucking power as the motherfucking people. You hear me? They can't stop this. And that's how we need to unite as the people. Real talk. I stand with Mexico.
And I'm going to use my voice. If they're coming in here for anybody, these people are my people.
In this process that has been this rushed, when you wake up in the morning, you will realize that you voted to defund Planned Parenthood and to take away health care from 13.7 million Americans. And when this country wakes up in the morning, there will be consequences to pay for this. And I yield back.
AOC's point is simple and it's correct. This is a cruel bill. The process was a joke. The consequences will be real. It's not something we sign and it's merely theoretical. This is a very real, impactful bill if it were to pass the Senate in this form, which it won't. But the point is Republicans in the House have every intention of making it pass. But there's a deeper tragedy when she says when the country wakes up. I don't think the country's awake right now. I think the country is in a proverbial coma. And I'm not convinced the country is going to wake up anytime soon because let's be honest, Americans aren't totally unaware. Many of them have heard something about this bill, a debate, a headline, an excretion on X. But the problem is that a lot of Americans have stopped caring because the apathy is not born of ignorance. It's born of exhaustion and despondency and strategic disengagement, which on an individual level I understand. But at scale is a real problem because the average American will ignore anything so long as they think it won't affect their bottom line. And the catch to the entire thing is that it's very much about to, because everything that's happening right now in sort of cumulative effect, when the financial fallout comes, when the bond yields explode and the markets crash and unemployment spikes and interest rates skyrocket, all things I hope don't happen, but all things I worry will happen, they're not going to have a choice but to care. Not because of ideology, but because they're suddenly going to be forced to develop a passion for civic engagement for their own self-preservation. They'll care because they won't be able to afford not to, because the economic chaos that is being sown here might make 2008 look like a hiccup. Now, I hope it doesn't happen, but you look at tariffs, spending bombs, deficit detonations, market instability, tax cuts for the rich, kicking people off food stamps, kicking people off Medicaid. This is really playing not only with the domestic economy, but the global economy. And Americans are understandably addicted to cheap debt, fragile supply chains, and cheap tchotchkes from China. It's going to be sleepwalking off of a cliff. So AOC is right. There are going to be consequences, not just for MAGA, but for everybody. The people cheering this bill in the House are going to be the first to scream when their constituents' Medicaid gets cut and suddenly their re-elections are.
To all African American citizens of the United States of America, I think, sit your butt down. Don't you dare march. Don't you dare demonstrate. Don't you do a thing. We did what we needed to do in the 1960s. Do you understand? This is not out. We will suffer, as always, but we know how to handle it. We have done this before. Sit down. It's not the 1960s. It's five. The battle does not belong to us. Suffer if you must, but smile and want it to make America great again. They got this. They gonna handle it. They gonna get it straight. They gonna save these Social Security checks and everything.
Okay, so I know how everybody thinks that it's bad news that we got an American Pope, but MAGA is freaking losing their mind. It was recently discovered that the new Pope, Pope Leo, was very active on Twitter. He reposted a bunch of articles about George Floyd, posted that he would continue to be praying for George Floyd, has been very vocally anti-Orange Man advance. And MAGA's freaking losing their minds over. Charlie Kirk posted a video about how he was a hack. Laura Loomer called him a woke Marxist Pope. Do a little bit of Googling on this, you guys, because the girls are mad. They're mad that the conclave chose a Pope that is American, but is totes not American, if you know what I mean. He's not eagle flag American. He's American that moved to Peru to get out of America. So I understand why everybody's bummed out that we ended up with an American Pope. In my mind, this is a huge sticker right on back to the Orange Man. I love watching the MAGA girlies come apart about international news.
I think a lot of you guys that voted for Trump and are now regretting it or changed their minds, whatever, a lot of y'all keep defending him because you would much rather act like you didn't do anything wrong instead of owning up to it and saying, you know what, I made a mistake, I messed up, I wasn't doing my research, or I was lied to, I felt blinded, whatever it is. Instead of coming on here and saying that, you would much rather keep defending this man because it's what's going to make you feel less guilty. It's going to make you feel like what you're standing up for is the right thing. When in reality, you know that it's not, and you know that you messed up, but you'd rather just continue like nothing is going on because you'd rather turn a blind eye to what's going on rather than have to own up to your shit and say, I made a mistake. Because y'all's pride is up here. It's full. Let go of that pride. Let go of the ego. And just admit that you made a mistake. And that's fine. People make mistakes. We're not perfect. I don't think that everybody who voted for Trump is a bad person. I think a lot of people either didn't have the right information. They were ignorant. They were blinded. Their belief, whatever. I don't think every person who's voted for Trump is a bad person. I just don't. I don't see everything black and white. Like, I don't just see like, oh, it's either this or that. No, I think there's like in between. The world is a complex place to be in, and we're humans. We're bound to make mistakes. Shit happens. But it's more of like when you know that there's something that's going on and that's not okay, and you decide to just keep quiet, I think that's cowardly. I think you should be able to come and say, you know what, I fucked up and I'm sorry, and just try to be a better person. So if that's you and you used to support Trump or his ways, and now you're scared to come on here and say, oops, let me tell you, it takes a lot of courage. It does. And I would respect somebody that does that so much more than somebody who stands by what they believe in just for the F of it, just because that's what they believed in at some point and they are not willing to change. So
a Republican woman is in shock because she showed up at the hospital in Florida with an ectopic pregnancy, and they told her they couldn't help her because of the law, just like we said that they would. So she was so upset she called the governor, because of course when you're in the middle of a medical emergency you want to call a politician, but he didn't pick up the phone. And how many women had their governor's number on speed dial? So after several hours of begging and pleading for them to help her like we said they'd make you do, they finally let her end the ectopic pregnancy before her fallopian tubes burst and she lost all ability to reproduce. And yet, she's trying to blame this on Democrats. But we said that when you showed up at the hospital, they wouldn't ask you who you voted for, what party you belonged to, and they wouldn't ask you what your interpretation of the bill was. They were just going to go by the law. So her care was delayed. I'm very happy she got the care that she deserved, but it was delayed. And there are other women out there whose care is being delayed. And that is putting their lives at risk and their reproductive health care at risk.
I want to call out Joe Biden for having gone into the future and caused the tragedy in Texas. I'm going to go on record here and say, Joe Biden, did you use a time machine to create this?
So you mean to tell me that you knew that you were nothing but a mere green card holder? But not just that, a green card holder that had been convicted of 2 crimes, right? You were not an American citizen, yet you still had unwavering support for Donald Trump until the mass deportations caught up with your ass. Caught up with your ass, now you stuck in Canada and you talking about you have a reversal for your support on Donald Trump. Ain't no reverse, bitch, this is not Uno. It's not Uno, ain't no reversal. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, his name is Chris Landry. Let me show you the clips with Chris from CBS Boston.
Earlier today, what is he saying about the situation?
Well, Priscilla, he says he's lived here in New Hampshire for over 40 years. He goes back and
I will never to this day understand how there are some black people that support Donald Trump. No matter how many times Donald Trump tells us who he truly is, there are some black people that will just never learn. Like, look at the individuals that he associates himself with. For example, Charlie Kirk, who quite literally said passing the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. He also said Martin Luther King was awful, and we shouldn't celebrate Martin Luther King Day, and we also shouldn't celebrate Juneteenth. And on this recent Juneteenth, he actually tweeted that everyone should be working that day. Then we look at people like Byron Donalds, who is one of the staple faces of black conservatives. Byron Donalds said that black families were stronger under Jim Crow, and he also said that black families voted more conservative. So I really don't have to talk about how ignorant of a statement this is. Now, as for black people voting more conservative, they quite literally had to. Now, firstly, there were a lot of barriers for black Americans to even vote during Jim Crow. And even for those that could vote, there was great intimidation. Groups like the KKK existed, and if they found out you voted liberal, they would likely hurt or unalive you. But there are also so many other bad people that Trump associates himself with. But it is breathtakingly obvious how much against black interests Trump really is.
We voted for Trump because he promised while he was campaigning like a million times that when he got into office, he was going to bring down prices, bring down grocery prices. The inflation has been high ever since COVID, and he promised he would bring that down. But it's obvious to me now that that was not true. Egg prices have skyrocketed. The bird flu is killing all the birds, and he doesn't seem to be doing anything about that. He's stopping disease communications from the disease centers in America, pulled us out of the WHO. Like, how does that help anything? And yeah, all he's been doing is taking away rights and freedoms, or trying to. He's not doing anything about the economy. So yeah, we totally regret our vote at this point. We've had a really tough time here in North Carolina. Half of my house got washed away in Hurricane Helene, and I applied for FEMA assistance and we got approved. But now Trump is canceling FEMA and emergency assistance to people. He's also...
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you are watching me from now. We all know the reality check that is happening in the United States of America right now because of the ignorance that some people brought when the black community tried to advise. Most of the people who voted for MAGA voted to punish the black community and to punish the illegal immigrants living in the United States of America. Now, they were rooting for their deportation and they were rooting for them being kicked out of their states and the United States of America. Now, for one reason or the other, now, this is why I say now, karma is real. The black community is doing well, while those who voted for the same system, they are now crying out because most of the MAGA supporters are now crying out to the black community. And they are now throwing tantrums at each other that they never listened to the black community. How I wish they could have listened. Now, they expected that voting Donald Trump could bring suffering to the black community, but they were in for a very rude shock because Trump's win didn't silence the black voices. As I've said before, that many supporters assumed Trump's victory would mean an end to wokeness, a return to white Christian and nationalist ideas, and a crackdown on Black Americans and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for a very strange reason, the progressive media. Now, this is now the reality they are getting after having voted Donald Trump, that the Black voices are now louder, that activists are now more strategic, the Black activists. Now communities are more united, the Black communities, the Red Indians, the Chinese living in the United States of America, those Jews who come from the other parts of the world, and Trump being forced to negotiate with Black influencers and leaders, and rather than ignore them, and this is not feeling good to the Black, to white MAGA supporters and to the conservative Latinos, because they really thought this was the downfall of the Black community, that the Black community will come begging, kneeling on their knees and asking them maybe to talk to the person they voted in. And the opposite is happening, that most of the Black activists are becoming more strategic. Like, they are now organizing people, and they are now telling the Black community to unite. Do not fight if you're not united. Do not reply if you're not united. I saw an incident where the Black community was being called to go and work in the white farms, but I saw the Black community as a whole coming out to condemn how they have been viewed as slaves with time, And for this one thing, it's making the Black community to be more united, because most of the Black people are now realizing that it is their strength, it is their unity that will serve as their strength, and not whatever they own and not whatever they have. And for this one reason, the Black voices are becoming more louder. And Trump is now being forced to look for the Black communities and not the Black communities looking for Trump. It is now the other way around. And for this one reason, the conservative Latinos are feeling betrayed by Donald Trump. They are feeling betrayed by their own vote. And they're now looking out for the Black community to come and help them. They could negotiate on how the Black community will help them stop the ICE, which has been coming after them time to time, So this really tells me a lot, that the Black community was sending signals, and no one could see the signals coming, And the Black community tried to communicate, but they were viewed as opposition, and they were viewed as the people with a problem. But now look at who is crying at the moment. Look who ignored the policies that the Black people are talking about, and look who is now facing the full wrath of karma at the moment. Now, many Latino supporters and white MAGA supporters voted in confusion. And at the moment, they are now realizing there was a reality part of it, that they were so much delusional at the moment, and they are now facing the reality. And they say the sword is cutting on both edges. And they voted for Trump thinking they will be rewarded for loyalty and opposition to illegal immigration, They thought Donald Trump was coming to reward them after they opposed illegal immigration, and yet they see Black Americans who mostly oppose Trump continuing to rise. They supported Trump thinking they were punishing those who were in opposition, those who were opposing Donald Trump's policies when he was being elected, or in his campaign trail, those who opposed most of the things he stood for, because they thought they could. Those are the things that was going to divide the US and the whole community at large. Now, after all they did, now Trump is now siding with the Black community. Trump is doing all he can to please the Black community. They thought the justice system will go maybe against and maybe try as much as they can to give Trump or the government the chance to deport the black people, that it was going to turn against the black community, but they're in for a very road shock. This is the time we should talk about humanity. This is not the time we should divide ourselves. It is the 21st century. I wonder why we still talk of things that are still dividing us. I still do not understand why people are so much focused on divisions instead of focusing on things that will bring we as the people together, because this is humanity. We won't live like we are in a jungle. We can't live this way, because even those who live in the jungle, the animals, the wildlife in the jungle, do have some manners sometimes. You know, we can't be eating each other. We can't be going after each other. Because you come from white, you go for black, after black. Because you come from black, you go after white, you know. We can't live that way. We've always had that part of life, and this is why we are this way. If at all we could come together and vote good leaders, not to vote leaders to punish the other team, but to vote leaders who will come and maybe make America great again, the real great again, not the one that some people are crying and others are feeling well. You know, those who are now thriving well in the US are those who are very close, or they have the proximity to this government. Most of the people who live a normal life have a very hard time sometimes. I've been doing my research and things are not getting better. It is time we realize that we should not vote to punish people. We should not vote with a lot of emotional, with a lot of emotions, you know. This is whatever has destroyed us over the years, you know. And some Latinos feel like their policies have been ignored, or the policies they voted for, and lumped together with illegal immigrants, regardless of their stance, you know, that they are now being considered illegal immigrants too, and some of them are being deported even after voting Donald Trump, after even having the stance that we are voting, we are opposing illegal people coming to our countries illegally and getting as much as we can to support this leader. But Donald Trump is still deporting them by the use of ICE. This is why they are calling out the black community to help them give a voice that will make Donald Trump maybe to stop this, and to tell the rest that the ICE isn't above law. Things that have been happening for years. It is time that we should recognize that we've all made errors, and we need to come together as the people of humanity and rectify where or when we went wrong. Now, Latinos feel like they have been betrayed by the lack of focus on their conservative values and contribution to Donald Trump's win. And when they see black Americans being praised, protected, or progressing, while they are being deported or dismissed, it creates spiritual and emotional resentment. They feel like they are being betrayed by the same government they voted in. They feel like they do not understand Donald Trump at the moment. But the black community is watching. The black community is doing well. The black community is thriving. You know, they ain't complaining, and most of them are shocked that why are the black community still silent? You know, God's justice looks different than MAGA expected. You know, that's whatever I'll say at the moment. That MAGA ideology often sees justice as punishing outsiders, you know, restoring traditional power, defeating liberals and progressivism, you know, such things. You all know about these things. If you are a good student of political science, you understand whatever I'm saying. But what God's justice looks like. Now, that's how MAGA looks. The God's justice. I mean, that's how the MAGA looks at God's justice. Now, let's see the real God's justice now. In real life, God's justice comes in humbling of the proud. That's one. Uplifting the marginalized. That's two. And a spiritual movement where blacks tag or stand into black empowerment, this often reflects the power of their God, or the power of God who they serve, because we all thought that Donald Trump was going to crash down the black community, but it has turned out that Donald Trump is now even considering talking to the black community more often than those who voted for him, you know. So this thing is so spiritual. And when we look at the political side of it, most people thought the black community was done, you know, and that the black community were to be abandoned, you know, and marginalized. But that's whatever is not happening. That's whatever did happen. Now, whatever is happening, that Latinos have been marginalized, have been abandoned, they are being deported, something which is not good. I do not feel good, or I do not live in a situation where someone must go through hell for me to feel good. I've lived in a situation where I believe every human being deserves a better life. Every human being deserves equality and deserves to enjoy the freedoms that are stipulated in the Constitution. But when some people wish others bad luck, then it turns out bad to them. I do not feel good, but it is better because they will learn from that. Sometimes you only learn from your mistake, because I feel like when mistakes do not happen, human beings tend not to learn, you know. And for this one reason, I feel like black people should focus more. Black people should come together, continue uniting. They now know you actually tried to advise them. Now the black strength and unity is on the rise, and the world is seeing that, and God is seemingly honoring black prayers for justice and survival at the moment, which is very, very strange, because no one expected that. If you believe in Christianity, if you believe in religion, you all know God is mysterious and he works in very mysterious ways. And he actually sometimes, and all the times, uplifts those who are marginalized, and those who act with pride are humbled. So lest we forget, let's be very, very careful. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. If it's your first time on this channel, please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, and commenting on these videos. Thank you so much.